You're going to be sick of my voice by the end of today, I guarantee it. All right, so leadership is one of the most important things you will need to learn to be a good pro-lifer and to abolish abortion. It is what I actually spend most of my time focused on, is leadership training. I spend more time talking about leadership than I do about abortion. I cannot overemphasize why this is important. And so, when I was in school, so I went to Fordham University. It's a Catholic Jesuit school in New York City. Fun Jesuits, woo! Any other Jesuit-educated people here? Yes, Georgetown. There we go. Anybody else? No? All right. Okay, so I was president of the Students for Life group at Fordham. I took over at the end of my sophomore year. And we went from doing basically nothing to being incredibly active in a very short amount of time. Within my junior year, we grew from having 4 students. It's literally my first meeting. There were 4 other people there. And the group's been going on. The group's been on campus for 40 years now. It started in 1973. It's died out. It's gone back and forth. And it was at a phase where they weren't really very active on campus. They were not very effective in what they were doing. Great-hearted people. They were at the abortion facility every Saturday, but it was the same 4 people who were going every Saturday. They weren't doing much outreach on campus. And so, long story short, I was involved in a conservative organization, decided I wanted to be president of something, rigged the election, and became president of Students for Life. I'm from Chicago, by the way. That's where we learned those things. I can give you that story sometime when I'm not on mic. And so we went from, so my first meeting after being elected, there were 4 other people in the room, and those 4 people became our officers. They showed up at the wrong time. Within a year, by the end of my junior year, we're getting 40 to 50 people at every meeting on a campus of only about 5,000 undergrads. We were doing something every single week. We were out on campus, we were out in New York City, we were working with the administration, making policy changes, doing all sorts of stuff. And so going then into the next year, early in the next year, I believe, it was still junior, I can't keep the time straight, but anyways, after one of our events, a student comes up to us. Her name's Eleanor. Eleanor's pregnant. She's still with her boyfriend, who is the father of her child, but they're not married. She is from Texas. He is from upstate New York. They have no other family in the area. She was raised Catholic, but only vaguely kind of sort of pro-life. And she came up to us because she knew about us. We were active. We had that reputation of being there to support women who were pregnant, amongst all the other things that we did. And what was tricky about Eleanor's situation was that she was attending Fordham on a full needs-based scholarship. Tuition, room and board, books, the whole deal, all paid for. And so she's now pregnant. The university says, mind you, this is a Catholic university, the university says you can't live in university housing because it's an insurance liability. There was no family housing available. There was no family, they didn't have any family housing off campus. She was gonna have to go find her own housing in the Bronx. So she goes to financial aid. Financial aid tells her, you have voluntarily moved off campus and therefore you forfeited your housing scholarship, which room and board at Fordham is $15,000 a year. So now she's faced with a decision. I either have to come up with $15,000 to live in New York City for another year so I can finish my education, or I can come up with $400 to have an abortion and put this all behind me. So luckily she came to us. We were able to connect her with the pregnancy services in New York City, the Sisters of Life. They're amazing people. Eleanor now has an almost 3-year-old daughter named Soraya. She is teaching in a Catholic high school in Texas somewhere, I believe near San Antonio. Beautiful story. And it really highlighted for us what some of the problems were at our university. And so while this was all going on, and we already knew there was some stuff that needed to change. We heard some rumblings about different things. So we went to the Dean of Students. Dean of Students tells me I had a great relationship with, very supportive of our group. He tells me only one girl in the last 5 years has been pregnant at this school. And I'm thinking to myself, I can name 3 off the top of my head who are pregnant right now. And I ran in the Catholic, super Catholic circles. So just imagine if I had a broader group of friends. And so we created this plan. We had this great 3-year plan. It was going to be awesome. Students for Life helped us make it. Feminists for Life helped us. It was going to be fantastic. We were going to make our campus the most friendly campus in America for pregnant and parenting students. And so we got this plan. We had it written out. We were all ready to kickstart it. And then I graduated. And more than 2 years later, we're still on step 1. Because as a leader, I made a big mistake. I did not effectively communicate my vision to the next leaders and equip them to do what they needed to do. Now, Laura is a great person. If Laura ever sees this video, she'll probably kill me. She did a lot of great things, but this is one example of how, as a leader, I did not succeed. And we don't know, what agonizes me is we don't know how many women like Eleanor have been in that situation, and the resources were not there for her, and she did choose abortion because we did not do our job. So why is leadership important? It's because with good leadership, only with clear, visionary leadership will social movements survive and thrive. And your leadership ability, your leadership ability is the lid on the potential of your organization and of yourself. John Maxwell, if anyone's read John Maxwell, if you haven't read John Maxwell, I encourage you tonight, go online, order John Maxwell books, 21 Irrefutable Laws for Leadership. He did not pay me to say that either. It is awesome. We use that for all of our leadership training, all of our leadership fellows, all read John Maxwell. I used to carry multiple John Maxwell books with me at all times. But this comes straight from John Maxwell. He says simply that your leadership ability is the lid that determines the level of your effectiveness. The higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. The greater impact you want to make, the greater your influence will be. And the lower your ability to lead, the lower the lid on your potential. So what is leadership? I'm going to put the microphone down for a second. Can you all still hear me? Yes. We're switching from PowerPoint to whiteboard today. Switch things up a little bit. I want you guys to shout out, who are some people I'll drop that. Who are some people you think of when you think of great leaders?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Why Ronald Reagan?
Great communicator.
Abraham Lincoln.
Communication. Why Abe?
Great emancipator.
Jesus.
Jesus. Why Jesus? All right. I'm just getting the pattern, getting the flow here, guys. Yes, exactly. Lots of followers.
Pope Francis.
My handwriting is awful. You're just going to have to pretend you can read this. Pope Francis. Who else?
George Washington.
George Washington. What about Mother Teresa?
Yeah.
Point out a big difference between Mother Teresa and the rest of these.
Martin Luther King.
I hope I spelled that right. That'd be embarrassing if I spelled Mother Teresa wrong. Is there an H in there?
Yeah.
All right. I heard enough people say that we're good. I think we have good lists of leaders. And if you look at this list, what are some things that we have in common? What are some things that are different? I like to point out the difference between this in the type of groups of people I usually talk to. These are pretty much the names I get most times. Ronald Reagan and Mother Teresa more so than anybody else. But if you picture Ronald Reagan next to Mother Teresa, they look completely opposite. Ronald Reagan, very tall, very charismatic man. He was an actor. He was president of the United States. He was a great speaker. People listened to him. He was very, very big. He had that commanding feel to him. Mother Teresa, on the other hand, was about yay high, hunched over, spoken almost a whisper, especially in her later years. Yet, when she spoke, everybody listened, and everybody followed her. And that's what leadership is. Leadership, very simply, influence. Nothing more, nothing less. If you retain nothing else about what I say all day, at least retain leadership is influence. Leadership is not, people think it's a title or a position just because you're the president of your organization, or someone's assigned or appointed you somewhere, or you're the guy holding the microphone, doesn't automatically make you a leader. And it's all about, again, having that influence. And in volunteer organizations, like most pro-life groups out there, volunteers cannot be forced to get on board. If the leader has no influence on them, they will not follow. And that influence can only be earned. One of my favorite quotes, Margaret Thatcher, one of my favorite quotes about leadership. Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Britain in the 80s, she said, being in power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people that you are, you aren't. And so some people will try to be a leader, others will emerge, but I will tell you that everybody here, everybody in this room has the ability to be an effective leader. But how does that happen? How do you become a leader? So there are a few factors and characteristics and traits that John Maxwell says are common in leaders and that you can look for in real leaders and that you can develop within yourself. The first is character, who you are. Your integrity is everything. True leadership begins inside, being able to lead yourself. People can sense the depth of your character. Think about this with athletes all the time. I don't know how many people follow sports. It's the only thing I do other than pro-life work. It's the only thing that keeps me sane, actually, if you can argue that I'm still sane. Think about how many athletes who were at the top of their game. They were, fast-tracked to the Hall of Fame. And then it comes out that they cheated. They've been using steroids. And they plummet immediately, lose their followers, lose their influence. Nobody wants anything to do with them. Just look at the fact that the best home run hitter of all time by the stats is still not in the Hall of Fame, Barry Bonds. You can do that. You can destroy everything you've worked for, all of your character, all of your integrity in just one moment. And it takes years and years to build it. But just one moment can break it down. So always be aware. You don't want any crazy hot mic moments. Think about Paula Deen. I'd been introduced to Paula Deen recently. One comment that she made 25 years ago that was racist. And she lost her TV show, though her book then became top of the Amazon bestseller. So I don't know if that's the best example. But she's someone whose credibility and integrity was immediately lost just on one mistake. So character, who you are, build that over time. Second, relationships. Most important thing about gaining influence, building followers, is being able to build relationships with them. You're a leader only if you have followers. That always requires the development of relationships. The deeper the relationships, the stronger the potential for leadership, the more they're willing to follow you. Think about last year's presidential campaign. Who here volunteered on one of the presidential campaigns? A handful of people in the room. I, by the way, I'm nonpartisan, nonprofit, survivors, same deal. I think nonpartisan, nonprofit, little disclaimer there. Mitt Romney ran an awful campaign. Absolutely awful. Because they were still running top down. They were still thinking you can buy votes by putting tons of money into TV ads, radio ads, things like that. Whereas Barack Obama ran the best campaign ever because of his grassroots, because he had people who fully believed in him and his mission, who were able to go door to door and talk to people about that. And people representing the Obama campaign were able to build relationships with their families, with their friends, with other people in their community. And at the end of the day, that's why he won. Because he had the relationships on the ground that the Romney campaign did not have. So, relationships, vital, very important. I talk about relationships all the time. Third is knowledge. It's what you know. Information is vital to a leader. You need a grasp of the facts, an understanding of what you're talking about, an understanding of where you're going, that vision for the future. It's what you guys are getting here this weekend and all week. Knowledge about abortion. The stuff that Jason's been telling you guys is the knowledge that you need to be effective. But knowledge itself will not make you a leader, though you cannot become a leader without it. On the flip side of that, number 4, intuition, what you feel. It's the intangible. Leadership requires more than just a command of the data. It requires a command of things like momentum, timing, being able to sense the morale of your organization, of your followers. Leaders seek to recognize and influence these intangibles. Very important. 5, experience, where you've been. Y'all are getting great experience this week. And the greater the challenges that you've faced, the more likely future followers will be to give you a chance. Experience does not guarantee credibility, but it encourages people to prove that you are capable, or to allow you to prove that you're capable. Piggybacking on that, number 6 is past success, what you've done. Nothing speaks to followers like a good track record. As some of you, especially the younger people in the room, you may not have much of a track record, but if you extend yourself at every opportunity, you provide more reasons for people to trust your leadership ability. Again, another sports analogy, metaphor analogy, anyways, is think about when teams hire new coaches. They're not gonna hire just some dude off the street or some guy who lost 100 games last year. They're gonna hire someone who's proven that he's successful. And number 7, ability. It's what you can do. Followers wanna know, at the end of the day, they wanna know what you're capable of. Are you capable of leading them to victory? So again, those 7 characteristics, those 7 traits are character, relationships,